thanks for that introduction. As mentioned, I am the author of a book entitled From the Other Side of the World, Extraordinary Entrepreneurs, Unlikely Places. And Turkey is actually the first unlikely place that I start my narrative. And then I go to a number of other emerging market countries: Nigeria, Pakistan, Mexico, India, Russia, and China. I actually went to 24 countries as I was doing the research for this book. And one of the reasons that I wanted to go and write this book is because I saw not only here in Turkey in the years of coming here to Startup Turkey and Startup Istanbul, is that there are extraordinary entrepreneurs doing amazing things all around the world, but we weren't hearing any of their stories. And so I put a book together that talks about these stories. Each of these stories looks at an entrepreneur that's overcoming a specific obstacle, whether it's corruption or poor governance or a lack of skilled talent. But as I've been going around and promoting my book, the one thing that people have been talking to me about and asking me the one question is, what sets entrepreneurs, whether they're in Turkey, Nigeria, or Mexico, apart from the entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley? What is that one secret thing? Because everywhere I go, I always talk about how the next Steve Jobs could come from Istanbul, or Cairo, or even Pakistan. And as I thought about that, the one thing that I actually really put my finger upon is entrepreneurs everywhere really start with the basics. They start with the basics of you have an idea, you build a team, you may get some investments, and you push it forward. But the one secret ingredient that really sets the good entrepreneurs from the ones who are able to become globally competitive, to become the so-called unicorns, to become like the yemek sepetis of Turkey, is confidence. Now, confidence is often something that's very misunderstood. It's this one thing that we don't understand what it is. We often associate confidence with being brash, with being loud, being able to come up on stage and being able to talk. Confidence is not arrogance. It is not being brave and going out there and being able to tell what your story is. Confidence is something that is much more complicated than that, and it requires a whole different set of resources and things that you need to tap into. Confidence is Malala is somebody who exemplifies what confidence is. It's somebody who has purpose and who understands what his or her purpose is. And I think that when you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, we're always going out there and we're talking about the what. We're talking about what our business is. What is our idea? How does it work? And I want to just step back and I want to play a video for you. Can we play the video? Of somebody who really understood what confidence is and tapping into it. Can we play the video? Okay, the one person I should have put the photograph of there. Steve Jobs is the one person that truly exemplifies the ability to actually channel what confidence is. And I was going to show you the video of the commercial that he did early on in the early Apple years about tapping into genius. How many people have seen that video? Where he talks about thinking differently, and he talks about the crazy ones, the ones who are the rebels, the ones that people just think, you know, have these crazy ideas. And he has images of Bob Dylan, of Albert Einstein, and these iconic figures of people who didn't care what other people thought of them. They had a vision and they understood what it is that drove them and what made them move forward. They were people who actually understood that entrepreneurship or anything that you want to do great is achieved with asking the question, why? Why am I doing this? One of the biggest mistakes that I've seen around the world in all the countries that I have gone around that really truly differentiates the good entrepreneurs from the great ones is the entrepreneurs who don't know how to answer this question of why. And if you answer the question why I want to make money, you are not an entrepreneur. When you look at individuals like Steve Jobs, like Elon Musk, like Nevzat Aydin, they weren't pursuing a bottom line. They saw an opportunity. They saw a problem that needed to be solved. They saw something that could add value to our society and move it forward in some way. They understood what the why was. And I want to just briefly take you on a journey with me to India. And I want to tell you the story of one of these entrepreneurs that actually understood what the why was. Interestingly enough, he understood it at the very last moment before he was getting ready to launch his company. Shafi Madar started a company called 1298 in Mumbai, India. Shafi Madar was a management consultant who worked for one of these big multinational companies in Mumbai. He had gotten an MBA in the United States. He had been educated in the United Kingdom. And he came back to India and he was working internationally and interacting with people all around the world, whether it was in the United States or in Europe or in China. And everywhere he went, he heard about how India had made it. India had become an Asian tiger. India had become an economy that mattered. That statement, he actually started to wonder, is India actually great? One night when his mother, after dinner, she started to choke. And he didn't know what to do. Everyone in the family started to panic. He didn't know the Heimlich maneuver, which I don't know how to do that either, but we should all learn that. He did what any of us in the United States would have done, which is he picked up the phone to call for an ambulance. When he called the number in India, no one answered the phone. And he thought, how can we be a global power? How can actually India call itself an Asian tiger when we don't have functioning services, when I can't call an ambulance in an emergency? This really bothered him, and he decided to get a number of friends together and take this issue to the government officials in New Delhi. They had done research about the importance of emergency response care. They met all the right officials in the Ministry of Health. They met their local representatives. And I think typical to all government officials, they just kind of nodded, those government officials nodded their heads, and they didn't really do anything about it. And several months after all of this inaction, Shafi said, you know what? If we really want to fulfill our role of being this global power that we say in India we are, then we need to take action. And he and his friends, they raised money among themselves, and they decided that they were going to start a for-profit ambulance company. They were going to start it in Mumbai, and they were going to give it a go. None of Shafi and none of his friends actually were in the healthcare business. They were all either management consultants or they worked in investment banking. So they were very successfully to raise the money for their new idea, but then they had to go out and actually learn how to do this. So Shafi actually spent some time with the London Ambulance Service learning how ambulance companies run. He went to New York and he spent some time with the emergency medical care services with the people in New York City. He got many people to donate equipment. He got many volunteers to come around the world and to help put this for-profit ambulance company together. The one thing that he needed, the one thing that was now missing in his ambulance care that it's taken him about 3 years since the time of his mother's unfortunate incident and the time that he's going to launch this company to give this a go. He needed a phone number. He goes to the office in Mumbai to register for a phone number that you can call for an emergency care, and he gets the runaround. And Shafi told me, he said, I wasn't surprised that I was going to get the runaround in India. Bureaucracy is very big, I think, like in many countries, and so he had fully expected this. So he spent 3 months trying to find the right people to actually give him this one phone number. So after 3 months, he's told that he has to go to the Ministry of Communications in New Delhi, in the capital of India, and he's going to be able to register for this phone number, and he's going to be good to go. He's going to have the number, he has everything set, and he's going to be good to go. And his company he had named Zakitsa, which is an amalgamation of a Sanskrit word which means healthcare and power. So he has everything ready, and he goes to the office in New Delhi, and he sits down, and the gentleman says, great, you know, I have a number for you, and we're going to all be good to go. And so Shafi was just thrilled. And the bureaucrat that he's dealing with says to Shafi, you know, how much is this number worth to you? Now, Shafi wasn't surprised that the bureaucrat was asking him essentially for a bribe. What he was surprised by was the amount at which the bureaucrat was asking for the bribe. The bureaucrat asked Shafi for the equivalent of 4,000 US dollars. And Shafi just stood back and he said, I'm a little surprised that you're asking for this much money. I'm trying to get this ambulance service going, and I'm trying to do something that's beneficial for India and all of Indians. And the bureaucrat said, I understand that, but I understand where you come from, and he saw that Shafi had quite a privileged background, and he thought, if you don't, this is what I'm demanding of you. Shafi leaves, and he's very distraught, and he actually has this moment where he's not disturbed by the bureaucrat asking him for this money, what he calls chai pani, because Shafi told me that in India, during the license Raj, all bureaucrats used to ask for something named chai pani, which is change for some tea. When India was a poor country, this wasn't very much of a big deal. And if you think about it, the word to grease a palm, is to just make something move forward a little bit faster. And that's just the way business worked. Things in India started to change as India started to become this Asian tiger that Shafi had heard about and that India had become. So as India started to get more money, the bureaucrats decided that they were going to go after some bigger sums. And that was the moment, that was Shafi's aha moment. Shafi realized that he had been focusing on the wrong issue, that the reason that India didn't have a functioning ambulance service wasn't that Indians couldn't actually put together the ambulance service, it was that they lacked trust in public services. That no one believed that the government could actually deliver these services without either asking for some chai pani or for some other quid pro quo. And he thought, oh my God, I'm going to start this for-profit ambulance company, and it's not going to succeed. It's not going to succeed because we're not going to be able to deliver any of these services, but it's not going to succeed because I didn't ask the question of why am I starting this? I didn't understand what problem I was solving. And if I don't actually repair this, the whole thing is going to fall apart. A few days later, he goes back to the office and to the ministry where he was asked for the bribe, and the minister says, are we all set? And Shafi says, I will not pay you a penny. And the bureaucrat says, that's fine. And then he gives Shafi the number 1298. Now, if you think about it, the number 1298 is not very memorable. It doesn't have a sequential combination. They're not repetitive numbers. What Shafi does at that moment is he says, instead of going out there, just like Steve Jobs didn't go out there and talk about his phone, he talked about thinking differently. Shafi went out and he talked to people, not about his ambulance service, but he talked to people about why India didn't have a functioning ambulance service. He talked to people about the high levels of corruption and the lack of trust in public services. He didn't talk not once about how his ambulance service would work or how you could call and how it would work. But the minute he started going out there and telling his why, oh, here we have some of that video. When he started talking about that why, people started to respond. 1298 has not only grown in size in Mumbai, and it's serving all of Mumbai. 1298 now serves all of India's states. It has he has now franchises in both Dubai and in Singapore, and Shafi is now working on his next enterprise. And in my book, when I talk about this, the one thing that actually Shafi said that really actually made his company work was that he actually sat down and he finally answered this question, why, at the last minute. And so, just to end it here, when we talk about the entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, when you actually take a look at whatever startup it is and whatever idea it is that they have, it's not necessarily that they're the best technologists, because most of them are actually not. It's not that they are the smartest people in the room, because most often that is not true either. You don't have to be the smartest, and you don't have to be the best technologist. You don't even have to be the best speaker. A lot of entrepreneurs, they're very shy and they're introverts. But the one thing that I have realized that makes Silicon Valley stand out is that everyone in Silicon Valley does ask this question of why? What is it that I'm doing, and how am I adding value? Thank you very much.